do scientists know about human evolution?
Here is a fossil. What kind of fossil is it? Is it a dinosaur fossil, or is it something else? How do we know what type of creature left this particular fossil? Our first clue comes from the lower jawbone. We note that the entire length of the jaw is made of a single bone on each side. Jaws with only a single bone on each side are found only in mammals. Reptiles, for example, have several bones that make up the lower jaw on each side. Since our fossil has only one bone, it must have been some sort of mammal. Although all mammals share the single jawbone characteristic, there are many variations of mammal jaws. We can notice, for example, the cutting and chewing teeth of the deer and other ungulates are quite different from those of a carnivore, such as a wolf. A jaw of a rodent, such as a mouse, still has the single jawbone construction of all mammals, but has developed characteristics that are quite different from either ungulates or carnivores. We can tell exactly what type of mammal our fossil was by looking at the numbers and kinds of teeth that it has. Since the teeth are the same on both sides, we only need look at one side. Our mammal fossil has two front or incisor teeth, one canine tooth, two premolars, and three molars. This particular dental formula is found only in primates, that is, in lemurs, monkeys, apes, and humans. So, the dental formula tells us that this fossil is a fossil of a primate. But there are other details of our fossil that will tell us even more. We know that our fossil is not of an ape, such as this gorilla. Apes have very distinctive, large, thick canine teeth and a flattened first premolar to allow the canine tooth from the top jaw to fit when the jaws are closed. Our fossil has a small canine tooth or eye tooth and two cusps or ridges on the premolar instead of a flattened surface. The only primates with teeth like this are humans and their close ancestral relatives. So our fossil is a human ancestor, not the ancestor of an ape or a monkey. In addition to teeth, other parts of the body can also tell us that the fossil was human. Just as with teeth, certain bones tell us that the animal could only be human because only human bones have that particular size and shape. These are human and chimpanzee hip bones. The human bone is on the right. Look at the top part of the bone. The top part of the hip bone has a distinctive shape among humans and their close ancestral relatives. In fact, among primates, only humans have a hip bone that is short and broad at the top and has a distinctive curve on the underside. The reason that the hip bone is so distinctive relates directly to the fact that we walk on two legs, while apes and monkeys walk on all fours most of the time. For a chimp or gorilla, this is the normal way of walking, while the normal posture for the human is, of course, upright. Note how the chimpanzee can support the weight of its body between its arms and legs, while the human being must support all the weight of its body on just two legs. This difference in locomotion affects almost every bone in the body in some way and allows us to identify which fossils were human ancestors and which were ape ancestors. This identification of the fossils is possible because of all the primates, only we and our human ancestors walk on two legs. Because we walk on two legs, the body must be balanced over the hips, and this changes the shape of the spine. The human spine has two curves, and these help center the weight of the body over the hips. This allows people to stand erectly on two legs. Note how the shape of the chimpanzee spine has one curve or arch. This one arch is all that is needed to support the body when standing on all fours. Examining the curvature of the spine is another way we can separate humans and their ancestors from apes and theirs. There are many other characteristics of shape and size that allow us to identify a fossil as human-like or ape-like. But the study of human evolution does not end with just identifying bones. We want to reconstruct evolutionary relationships between each type of fossil and the ones that came before and after it. We also want to try to determine how each type of human lived. How do we know what types of fossils preceded a particular fossil type? And how do we know what types it gave rise to? Determining ancestors and descendants is an important part of what the study of evolution is all about. Evolution, after all, is the principle that living forms are related because they share common ancestors in the past. We are all related to our fossil human ancestors. And these fossil humans shared a common ancestor with modern apes. The ancestor of the chimpanzee, the gorilla, the orangutan, and humans had its own ancestors even further back in time. One of these earlier ancestors was the common ancestor, both of the apes and of monkeys. And earlier still, there was an ancestor that is common to all mammals. The characteristics that are common to all mammals are inherited from this common ancestor. At some point, even further in the past, ancestral mammals shared a common ancestor with ancestral reptiles, and we can go on back through shared ancestors until we come to primitive invertebrate fossils, and even back to single-celled organisms. Evolution is a powerful principle for tying all of life together. Let's consider the fossil we began with. We can't determine the evolutionary relationships between our fossil and others unless we know more about how old our fossil is. And here is where careful excavation is vitally important. In fact, the context or accompanying material found with a fossil is in many ways as important as the fossil itself. We can tell how long ago our fossil lived by making comparisons of the other fossils found at the same site, and also by determining the age of the rocks and other materials found with our fossil. Olduvai Gorge may be the most famous fossil site in Africa. Many fossils of human ancestors have been discovered here. Note how different layers of rock and soil can be separated by their color. Usually, fossils found below a given level are older than fossils found above that level. By comparing the types of bones found at different levels, a map can be drawn, allowing us to place our fossil in time relative to other fossils at the same site. There are also laboratory, chemical, and radioactive methods for telling how old a particular geological level is. These methods can be applied to fossils and rocks from many different sites and allow us to determine precise ages for human fossils from around the world. The methods of determining the age of our ancestors are very important, for they tell us where a new fossil fits in the evolutionary picture. Because of its anatomical features, the geological formation in which it was found, and the laboratory dating techniques, we know that our fossil lived at a time between a more primitive human ancestor called Australopithecus and a more advanced form called archaic Homo sapiens, some of which have been called Neanderthals. Our fossil is named Homo erectus. It lived with other extinct animals such as woolly mammoths and woolly rhinos. Homo erectus is intermediate between Australopithecus and archaic Homo sapiens, not only in time, but also in the size and shape of its bones. For example, the size of its brain case in the skull is larger than its ancestors, but smaller than that of the more modern Homo sapiens. Detailed examination would also show small differences in the teeth and other bones. But there are other ways in which our fossil is intermediate, things beyond the size and shape of bones. Although other primates, such as chimpanzees, sometimes use tools, only humans are dependent upon them for their daily survival. Archaeologists study tools found in association with past peoples, including our fossil ancestors. Their research shows that human behavior has evolved through time, adapting to changing environments as fossils show that our ancestors evolved biologically. The types, styles, and complexity of tools have changed over the long history and prehistory of humans on Earth. Australopithecines made very simple stone tools, and archaic Homo sapiens made some that were quite intricate. The tools of Homo erectus were clearly intermediate. They were used to obtain and process food and for defense against predators. Using tools is a more efficient way for people to do these things than using hands and teeth alone, especially considering humans' reduced jaw and tooth sizes. In addition to stone, bone, and wooden tools, Homo erectus was the first creature to use fire for cooking and warmth and protection. Because they were better able to get food and protect themselves, Homo erectus increased in population and was able to spread into new and colder lands. Australopithecus fossils have been found only in Africa. Homo erectus remains have been found in Africa, Europe, and Asia. Archaic Homo sapiens had even more complex tools, and with their improved technology, they were able to live in all parts of the world. Although so far, their remains have not been found in Australia or in the Americas. They improved upon earlier uses of animal skins for clothing and crude shelters, and during the last major glacial period, they even lived in Western Europe near the edges of the great ice sheets. Almost all primates live in groups consisting of adult males and females and their young. Group living requires social behavior and cooperation. Human social behavior seems to be the most elaborate of all the primates. We find evidence for the evolution of social behavior and cooperation from Australopithecus through Homo erectus to archaic Homo sapiens and modern humans. Australopithecus gathered plants and scavenged for meat. They probably did some hunting for small game. Almost certainly, scavenging on large kills would have been done cooperatively. We can infer this because there is lots of competition for meat from dead carcasses. The competition is from dangerous animals such as hyenas, vultures, and lions. Participants in cooperative scavenging must have shared in their successes. They probably even shared with other members of their social group. We find bones of large mammals together with Homo erectus tools, showing that they may have been hunted by Homo erectus. To hunt such large, dangerous prey required group cooperation and planning beyond that developed by Australopithecus. Gathering plant food almost certainly remained important, and despite the popular image of ancient big game hunters, most of their diet probably came from plants. Unfortunately, plant material seldom leaves fossil evidence in early archaeological sites. Both scavenging and hunting of small game required some degree of cooperation. Cooperation and sharing probably extended to other aspects of Homo erectus' social life. By the time of archaic Homo sapiens, we find the first evidence of ritual burial of the dead. Sometimes, bodies were buried with tools, food, jewelry, and other items used in life. Perhaps this suggests that the love and respect people shared in life was extended to this time of parting. Whatever its meaning, burial is strong evidence for the evolution of new and more complex, more human-like social behavior, and the evolution of the thinking behind this behavior. Archaic Homo sapiens evolved into modern Homo sapiens in both anatomy and behavior. Fossils of modern Homo sapiens are physically the same as we are. Archaeological remains of these early people show their high level of imagination and inventiveness, reminding us of ourselves. Art evolved as a way for people to express themselves, their hopes and desires for life, for themselves, for their families, and perhaps their notes about natural events. Much of the earliest art depicts animals that our ancestors hunted for food and clothing. Carvings and paintings may have helped plan the hunt. It is widely believed to have been a way to make magical connections between hunters and their prey. Archaeologists believe this in part because many animals in ancient paintings are killed, sometimes showing spears protruding from their bodies and blood gushing from wounds. By drawing elements of a successful hunt, the hunters may have thought they could better control the outcomes of real hunts. Artistic expression extended to other aspects of daily life. The tools our ancestors depended upon were often made with great care to their appearance. Some became works of art, too delicate and fragile to be used as practical tools. Whether made to show off a person's skill, serve as objects of beauty, or to function in some ritual or ceremony lost to us today, some tools came to transcend everyday functional needs. People also began to depict themselves in their arts. Pregnant female figurines may have been attempts to increase fertility magically, or to worship, or just simply to be admired. Perhaps they represented goddesses of fertility and the bounty of nature. There are billions of people alive today. We live in many different countries with different traditions and ways of life. We come in many different sizes, shapes, and colors. We speak hundreds of languages, wear different kinds of clothing, and have many differences in beliefs and behavior. However, all living humans are members of one genus and species, Homo sapiens, and both our bodies and our behaviors evolved from ancestors such as Homo erectus. Because of our understanding of evolution, we know that all people are literally cousins because we all descended from the same ancestors. We identify and study our fossil ancestors with a variety of methods. Comparative anatomy is used to identify fossils as human ancestors. Methods of geology, chemistry, and physics place fossils in their proper time in history. Work by archaeologists provides evidence for the evolution of tools, technology, behavior, and the workings of the human mind. The methods and principles we use to understand human evolution apply equally to the evolution of all life. These common methods of study and the understanding of the nature of evolution tie all life together and allow people alive today to appreciate our place in the living world.